On the clear, crisp morning of October 11, 2025, a new and dangerous chapter in Middle Eastern history began as a direct, overt war erupted between Israel and Iran. For years, the world had watched a slow-burning fuse, a shadow war fought through proxies, cyber attacks, targeted assassinations. But on this day, the shadows receded, replaced by the stark light of open warfare. Many pointed to a single dramatic strike as the catalyst, but the reality is far more complex. This war was the culmination of escalating events shaped by suspicion, fear, and strategic calculation. The foundation of the 2025 war was laid over decades of hostility. After the 1979 revolution, Iran's leadership adopted a staunchly anti-Israel ideology, framing Israel as illegitimate and a Western outpost. Israel, in turn, viewed the Islamic Republic as a determined adversary bent on regional hegemony. Each side read the other through worst-case assumptions, deepening a classic security dilemma. In the shadows came sabotage of key facilities, assassinations of high-profile figures, and a relentless war of words on the international stage. Blows and counterblows normalized low-grade conflict. With no direct diplomatic channel, miscalculation became probable. Messages traveled as threats, postures, and covert acts. These roots in distrust grew into the tinder for open war. Before missiles flew directly, the battle was waged through intermediaries across the region. Iran cultivated allied militias with funding, weapons, and guidance. Hezbollah became a formidable force on Israel's northern border, armed with rockets and missiles reaching deep into Israel. Support extended to Gaza factions, Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria, and the Houthis in Yemen. Israel countered with the war between the wars, intelligence missions and surgical strikes mainly in Syria to disrupt weapons transfers and block an Iranian foothold near the Golan. Each strike aimed to degrade capabilities without triggering all-out war. These tests of strength steadily raised violence, making a larger clash increasingly likely. Entangled theaters meant a spark in one arena could ignite another, pushing the region toward a direct Israel-Iran confrontation. At the core was Israel's fear of a nuclear-armed Iran, an existential threat often framed through the lens of history. This fear shaped doctrine, prioritized intelligence, covert action, and credible military options. Iran said its program was peaceful, but opacity raised alarms. The 2015 deal imposed limits. The 2018 U.S. withdrawal saw commitments erode and enrichment rise. Breakout time fell from years to months, then weeks, a ticking clock in Israeli war rooms. Talks faltered amid distrust and domestic politics, closing the window for a non-military fit. Cyber attacks, assassinations, and threats of preemptive strikes followed, seen in Tehran as acts of war. Iran answered with military buildup and nuclear advances as deterrents. Israeli pressure spurred Iranian advances, which made an Israeli strike more likely, a dangerous feedback loop. In the early hours of October 9, 2025, Israel launched large-scale precision airstrikes deep inside Iran against military and nuclear-related infrastructure. Targets reportedly included drone and missile production, command and control nodes, and auxiliary weaponization sites. It was a bold, unambiguous escalation, crossing a long-avoided red line. A hard choice driven by intel warnings, diplomatic failure, and a judgment that inaction was riskier. Leaders called it defensive preemption to neutralize an existential threat. Iran acknowledged major damage and casualties among IRGC ranks, an assault on capability and pride. The world watched, waiting for Iran's response. Israel elevated readiness across its multi-layered defenses as civilians were told to prepare. The strike shattered the fragile equilibrium. Shadow war turned open conflict. 48 hours later, on October 11th, Iran answered with Operation True Promise. Hundreds of one-way attack drones launched from multiple axes, timed to arrive simultaneously. Waves of cruise and advanced ballistic missiles followed, aimed at key Israeli sites. Iran sought retribution and deterrence to stress test Israel's defenses and to signal global reach, especially to the U.S. sirens wailed across Israel as civilians sheltered. Israeli defenses, aided by U.S. and partners, intercepted the vast majority. Some ballistic missiles penetrated, damaging a southern airbase and rattling the public. It was the first direct, large-scale Iranian strike from its own territory. The proxy paradigm shattered. A state-on-state confrontation had begun. Both sides crossed a threshold with no easy return. Shockwaves pulled in allies and proxies. The war went multi-front. Hezbollah opened a northern front with significant rocket and anti-tank fire. Civilian casualties, widespread damage, and mass evacuations created a depopulated security zone. Houthis targeted the south. Israeli and allied navies intercepted, threatening global shipping lanes. Vessels rerouted. Oil prices spiked and supply chains strained. Iran-backed militias hit U.S. positions in Iraq and Syria to pressure Washington. The U.S. condemned Iran, deployed assets, and intercepted drones and missiles. The UK and France contributed air assets, underscoring international stakes. Tehran stretched Israel across fronts to impose costs and deter a crushing counterstrike. But numerous flashpoints risked spirals beyond any capital's control. Parallel to missiles and drones, a fierce digital war erupted. Iranian-affiliated groups probed government, financial, water, and power networks to sow panic. Israel retaliated against core state and economic nodes, fuel flows, ports, and media systems. Disruptions rippled into daily life and state messaging. Both sides flooded feeds with propaganda and disinformation, deepening confusion. Deniability in cyberspace encourages risk. Critical infrastructure attacks can blur digital and kinetic war. A single line of code can be as devastating as a ballistic missile. This invisible front added a volatile, unpredictable dimension to the conflict. Beyond strategy and maneuvers lies the devastating human cost. In Israel, Iran, Lebanon, and Syria, ordinary lives have been upended. Sirens and shelters became routine. Evacuations created internal refugees. Strikes and sanctions strained Iran's economy, fueling fear and scarcity. Humanitarian needs surged as health systems buckled. As of October 11th, a tense, volatile new normal holds. Low intensity, but persistent hostilities. The path forward hinges on choices in days and weeks ahead. Watch for ceasefires, back-channel talks, and softer rhetoric.